Welcome again to Dan's Vinyl Corner. I am Dan, and today we're going to be discussing the vinyl pickups of pre-Christmas December 2021. We'll start out with one Tone Poet, which is always discussed by the 45 RPM audiophile, and one of the releases this year I had not yet picked up, and that was Bird in Flight by Donald Byrd, right here. On this, we have a few other players. So Hank Mobley, of course, who does a beautiful job kind of blending himself into this sound of this session, which can be, Latin rhythm at times. Other times sounds like a, hard bop classics or that sort of thing. We have Duke Pearson on piano, who is sort of, one of the Blue Note executives and talent searchers. And we have Lex Humphreys on drums. And the track, which is his namesake, Lex, is my favorite track on this album, which starts off the B-side. Highly recommended listen. That again, it's just innovative hard bop music that is, sort of going beyond the tropes, exploring Latin rhythms, various things. Definitely a very lively session from a number of extremely talented musicians. I think they even have Jackie McLean on a few tracks here, and of course, it's a Tone Poet, so getting lots of images here. This one is pressed at RTI. A beautiful copy of this record and wonderfully recorded. It's not like some of the Tone Poets where maybe you hear some distortion. The recording on this one really is great. And next up, I was in Boston and had found that Tone Poet, as well as the Mobile Fidelity 45 RPM Kind of Blue box set here, which is without introduction. So I would compare it to a previous pressing, which is the Record Store Day Mono, which was done from an analog source by Kevin Gray. This one has a really direct sound. They're not really doing anything audiophile or any kind of cleanups. This is basically what's on the tape, and they are giving you the most accurate reproduction as they can of the tape on a record. I have just an MPO stereo pressing here, which is okay. This is one of the early jazz records I got just off of Amazon, really, before I knew what I was doing. And it sounds fine. I mean, it sounds fine. But with this, you're sort of getting the audiophile treatment more so, even than the Kevin Gray, where the sound stage is really wide. You can hear it's very tactile when the musicians are playing their instruments or, blowing into the horns. The bass is there. They've done the best that they can to take down the S-ing on, the beginning of the A side. I thought just a very nice version of this album. And I think my quest for a good copy of Kind of Blue is over. I don't buy into paying more money than this for the UHQR, which I think is probably a bit of a gimmick if this isn't already. But in any case, great version of the album, and nice to be able to hear it on a copy that parallels the system. So, getting right along with things, we also have sort of an upgrade copy that I had here. For a while, I've had a UK Aftermath from the Rolling Stones here. This was a special edition on this sort of plum colored vinyl. And again, that's the UK track list. So you're going to get Mother's Little Helper instead of Paint It Black, and also some different songs on the B side. But sort of some of the classics like, Lady Jane and Going Home. You're going to get those on both. I had an early US of Aftermath for a while, but the jacket was ripped, it was warped. I had come across it, for free, and I figured it was about time to have an upgrade on that, because I was, there was an appetite to listen to a US copy on my part. So I picked up this Aftermath, very near minty copy, early Best Way pressing in stereo on the London label here, and yeah, just beautiful record, and glad to have both the US and the UK of this one right here. Next, there were a few releases from the Classic series. I don't know if I found all of them to really be so classic, especially the ones that come, after the acquisition of Blue Note by Liberty UA. But I think, maybe the Herbie Nichols I will pick up, and I've already picked up this Home Cookin' by Jimmy Smith, which had a number of hard bop anthems together with Kenny Burrell, This was cut white hot as the sun by Kevin Gray. Absolutely great cut. And I really enjoyed CC Rider on this. And I think there was one track on the B-side here, too, that really was shining. The Come On Baby on the B-side, that was great. And this is a barn burner from beginning to end right here. So absolutely great hard bop record. And you know, big sound from the organ. One additional thing I had found at a local record store, sort of on the low, was, you know, I'm always on the lookout for Willie Nelson records, and this is Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson, Poncho and Lefty, still in the shrink, on the Epic label. And this album, you know, is known for the song Poncho and Lefty, which is how at least I was exposed to, you know, Townes Van Zandt and his music first. So, yeah, absolutely stellar copy of the record, and glad to own that one, since this was one of the first, you know, country albums that I ever really did listen to. We have here the Allman Brothers Band, Brothers and Sisters. This is an early copy with Sterling in the dead wax. Really great mastering. I think this one was actually done by George Marino himself, and I've never heard the album sound this good. The bass is very tight. You have very good separation of the instruments and frequencies. It doesn't sound compressed like some of the other early pressings or CDs. So I highly recommend looking for this on the Capricorn label with Sterling in the stamper there. You're going to get, you know, Jelly, Jessica. You're going to get Ramblin' Man. This is an absolutely essential album. Beautiful gatefold. And, you know, I found plenty of copies available at a good price. So I would say definitely one to look for any Allman fans. An additional Allman Brothers find was another upgrade. I've been focusing a lot on upgrades, you know, trying to value quality over quantity in a way. And I had the DMM of Fillmore East, which I found was EQ'd like a jazz record. In fact, when I listened to that early Brothers and Sisters, I realized how lively the bass was, and, you know, as I said, how good it sounded compared to some of my DMMs. So I figured they're different albums. It might be sort of apples to oranges, but maybe if I can get an early, you know, copy with Sterling or, you know, good mastering, then I'll be able to really conclusively say these DMMs of Allman Brothers are EQ'd like jazz records. And yes, indeed, having found this live in Fillmore East, great album, one of my absolute favorites. This is an early press on the Capricorn label. It has Capricorn Records there. And this one does have Sterling in the dead wax. I don't think it was George Marino himself who did it, but it was done at Sterling. And this is a hot mix right here. You're going to hear Stormy Monday, the way that you know, the high guitar is coming off. The bass and the organ, I mean, it's all just going to sizzle off of your speakers. It really gives the album a psychedelic feel. And Elizabeth Reed as well, that jam session. You Don't Love Me. I mean, this thing just sparkles and you know, from beginning to end. Absolute great copy of this record. Again, Allman Brothers with Sterling in the stamper. And I recommend picking that up, even though the new copies are all analog. It's like a Mobile Fidelity Led Zeppelin II. It sounds like a jazz record. This is the way to go. Then found a 1966 mono Beatles Revolver on the Capitol label. This one has been loved. You know, it's not in super perfect shape, but it's mono. It's cut on there pretty loud, and you know, it plays through, and it's much better than a big box store copy. And really happy to finally own something from the Beatles in mono, especially an album I listened to, you know, growing up as a little guy so much. We have another one which is sort of a personal grail, and this is not a grail version necessarily, but it's definitely a very nice version of the record. And this is Electric Mud, which was originally on Cadet Concept, and this features Muddy Waters playing his blues in a Chicago electric style with a psych guitar thrown behind it, and It's totally something you're not ready for. I think it was pretty well received in England at the time it came out because they were a little more on the psych side, a little more eccentric. But in the US, it was not very well received by critics, at least. Muddy Waters, I think the story goes, hated it but loved it. This version is on Third Man. Real clean copy of this record. And it preempts the sound of like modern blues rock. If you hear like the Black Keys today, that's a lot like what this sounds like. And you know, having listened to some psych lately, like the Mighty Babies and all, this has been a real welcome addition. That's Electric Mud, originally on Cadet Concept and now on this Third Man label. All right. Another copy that I had found as an upgrade, which is again something I've been focusing on a lot recently, given the state of my collection, is Led Zeppelin III. This is my favorite Led Zeppelin album. And I had the Jimmy Page version for a long time. But again, it's just EQ'd like a jazz record. Like there's no bass. The vocal is very subdued in the mix. It sounds very laid back. And you want these Led Zeppelin records to, even on the acoustic tracks, you want them to jump out of your system. You want them to have that tenacity to them. And that's what I found on this recording. This is a specialty pressing mastered by George Piros on the Atlantic label. That's the SD 19128. And the B-side of this record, as good as the A-side is, you know, you're going to get Immigrant Song, you start with here. We got Since I've Been Loving You, I'm seeing on the track list here. But then on the B-side, you get Tangerine, That's the Way, Gallows Pole. Some of that great music that was inspired by Led Zeppelin's time in the countryside of the UK. And That's the Way, just my absolute all-time favorite Led Zeppelin song. So glad to own it on an all analog, George Piros mastered cut of this record. Moving right along, you may remember from my previous videos, I've been trying to amass the full selection of the UK copies, the UK reissues of the Smiths albums, pressed at Optimal, which I think just sound great. Even if they are digital, these just sound phenomenal. I did finally find the Smiths UK version, the 2012 release, pressed at Optimal. This is like the US version, but it does not have This Charming Man on it. And what a great album from beginning to end. I also came across another one, Hat Full of Hollow, which has the 1983 John Peel sessions. You're going to get This Charming Man on this one, as well as a number of other great tracks. That's the Hat Full of Hollow, and this one is actually going to be a gatefold copy. So I really loved playing these records, you know, and I'm, you know, they're already starting to pick up a lot of airtime. One additional upgrade I did was a Beach Boys Pet Sounds. I have had the Analog Productions Mono 33. Personally, for an album like Pet Sounds, I don't want to listen to it on 45 because you're going to flip it so many times, and I want to be, you know, engrossed in the legend of the album. And kind of take some more time on each side to develop that connection. Again, the mono I thought was very nice. That's a TAS list album, so it's audiophile grade if any album ever was. But did want to get a stereo. I had an old stereo copy that would skip, so I upgraded to the 200 gram 50th anniversary copy that was mastered by Capitol and pressed at Rainbow Records. And it looks like I won the Rainbow Lottery with this one because it's a real nice sounding copy, and it does have that really, really rich bass of the original. And you know, I got some comments, oh, what's wrong with your system, there's a lot coming out of the bass. No, it's just a really nicely cut record. And this one is, of course, without introduction, a great record, and nice to have really clean, great sounding copies on the mono and stereo. Coming to the home stretch here, I have the Moray Eels Eat the Holy Modal Rounders. This was on the Sundays label and was a 60s psych folk album that at times sounds like Captain Beefheart, at times sounds like the Velvet Underground. And yeah, still trying to get my head around this one, but it's a new addition to the collection, something I've not really heard much before, but was recommended to me, and in the process of listening to this one on Sundays. And finally, we have an album that my grandmother liked very much, which is Carole King's Tapestry. This is the 33 RPM version on the Mobile Fidelity label. There it is. And it's gatefold. This is, of course, a great album, one of those singer-songwriter albums that sort of influenced the way that we think of the singer-songwriter, woman singer-songwriter today, and that style of artistry. So, yeah, great addition to the collection here. And that will conclude the vinyl finds from my side for the pre-Christmas period of December 2021. And soon I'll be making videos on, the Christmas finds and other things like that. So stay tuned for more. Thanks.